deep in what we're trying to accomplish here. Hope everyone had a nice weekend. You know, last week we started to have the conversation about how to get through a sustained period of confinement. What we're dealing with right now is this chronicness of what we're stuck in. When you go through life sometimes, and there's peak moments, there's moments of highs or lows. Those moments come, and when you're in the moment, you rely on different parts of your mind. It's called the amygdala hijack. You go into fight or flight. You tap into adrenaline. When people go through, unfortunately, not great things, or hopefully great things, in many ways they get swept up into that thing. And they're all in on that thing, and their body goes into a totally different mode. And in that mode, they're able to do things they couldn't do otherwise. And a lot of life is dealing with it post-event. If somebody, God forbid, loses someone that they love, they're dealing a lot of it with it post-event. If there's a financial crisis, usually it happens over the course of some weeks or some months, and then everyone's got to deal with it post-event. But it's a totally different game to deal with something while it's happening. When there's a sustained sickness, when there's a sustained issue. And those are totally different muscles. What we're trying to do here, and hopefully we're going to work on this week, and think we've had an incredible past few weeks of holidays, and it should continue. We have good things. But now we're getting back into life. Now we're in the world of, well, I won't say life. Now we're getting back into a different part of our lives. Now we've got weeks ahead of us that are holiday free, which on one hand is scary that we don't have the extra spirituality that a holiday brings us. But on the other hand, it gives us the opportunity to actually get stuff done. A holiday is a peak. Its job is to take you up a mountaintop and enable you to live your life in a way with certain levels of spirituality that would otherwise not have come our way. But the trail in between the peaks is really where we become who we become. And one of the things we started up talking about last week, we started talking about this before, and I want to start to focus on the beginning of this week, is this idea of breaking up life. In order for us to be able to go through a sustained period of uncertainty, which hopefully with God's help will end soon, for us to go through that, it's not enough to rely on adrenaline. Adrenaline can only take us so far. This is the difference between stress and chronic stress. Stress, doctors say, is fine for us. Our body is built for stress. In fact, when you work out, you're trying to stress your muscles. In many ways, the lack of our willingness to be in stress is what stops us from being who we're supposed to be. Because in truth, we're supposed to be stressed to some extent. Doesn't mean we have to always be stressed, but we're supposed to be somewhat stressed. Because stress takes us from a position of sort of mediocrity. Let me just fix this for a second. It's bothering me. There we go. It takes us from a position of mediocrity and moves us into a position of greatness. So if you can almost picture the way your mind works or your body, is that having brief moments of stress is actually fairly good for you. It builds resilience. It builds muscle. Where stress becomes problematic is when it becomes chronic, when it becomes consistent. When every morning you wake up in the morning and you sense stress, or whatever the hormones is that indicate the stress, because you look at your phone. So if it's every single morning, at some point that stress moment, which should basically build us, ends up destroying us. You can almost imagine it being like, if you shock a system once in a while, it's good. It brings the system back. If you shock a system every second of every day, or 3, 4, 5 times a day, it hurts the system. So now we're in a different place right now. Now we're in a place of where it can get chronic. And those are totally different strategies. And the strategy for this strategy is not to ride the wave. When you're in a game, when you're in a speech, when you're at a moment and you've got high levels of stress, you got to just let adrenaline flow through and do your best. You got to respond. You got to allow your body to click into all these new emotions. But when you're in a place of chronic stress, you can't let that happen. They're two totally different games. And if you play the wrong game, you lose. If you get lost in the game of stress now, you're going to burn out. Or you may not burn out completely. You'll just maybe operating at 50% at a time where you got to be at 110. And the strategy for the second way is to change your perspective. What was once normal can't be normal anymore. What was once how you see the world can't be that way, because the world isn't giving you the same world. Right? That makes sense? That if it's one in a while, if you're in a place of peak stress, your perspective is your perspective. Your body will click in, it'll take you to the ride, and then it'll come back down. There's a very sort of a benign example, right? You're sitting in your house and you look at the weather, and the weather says there's going to be a snowstorm coming in. For those in California, those are white things that come from the sky. So what are you going to do? So you brace yourself. You prepare. You get whacked with a snowstorm. And then you figure it out. Your adrenaline clicks in. And you shovel and you get to work and you trudge and whatever you do. That's not what's going on. You can't do it every single day. You can't every day wake up in the morning and deal with what the numbers and when we're opening up and what's going to be with the economy and you can't do that. In the first case, your perspective can somehow stay the same. In the second case, it can't. And the way you build your perspective, for those of you who have been with us for a while, if not, go back to the earlier archives. We begin with replace confidence. We get to the world of associating yourself with your actions. But where we are right now is into this sea, this ocean called gratitude. Because by filling your mind with things that you're grateful for, what you're doing is you're creating new neuroplasticity. And what you're really doing is you're reformatting your brain. You're changing your perspective. You're enabling yourself to start to see the things that were otherwise invisible to you. Your mind never picked up on the breath that you had. You could never have appreciated before because you didn't even realize it was there. People don't realize that the food in my fridge is a gift, so they can't appreciate it that it's there. They just come down and eat. So their brain goes from I'm hungry to I eat, and there's no space as I'm hungry. Will there be food in the fridge? Oh my gosh, there's food in the fridge. There's eggs in the supermarket. There's the ability for me to feed my family. Like slowing that process down, like we said on Friday, breaking up each step and focusing on it for a minute to be grateful for it isn't like you're hooking up God. What you're doing is you're giving your mind the ability to upgrade its perspective so that it can learn to live with abundance in a world that has less physical abundance. We're living in a time right now that although we have more than our grandparents ever had, even with this, the world has changed. The normalcy has changed. So your mind will naturally say, well, last year at this time, I woke up this morning. We were supposed to be away for the holiday at a hotel. We were invited, thank God, to go to be guests at a hotel program for the holiday. So I woke up this morning, and for the first time in 2 weeks, my brain didn't say to myself, just automatically didn't say, oh, if you were at the program, you'd be doing this, right? Because it was supposed to be, I left 2 weeks ago on Monday. I was supposed to be coming home this morning. So this morning was like the flight home, the dreaded 6 a.m. flight from Arizona. So that would have been a 3:30 wake up, whatever would have been the challenges of trying to navigate a family through an airport and on the airplane with the packages and the luggages. So for the first time in 2 weeks, one of my first thoughts, automatically, I wasn't trying to, wasn't like, oh my gosh, if you were in a program now, you would have been at now fine. I'm like, thank God I don't got to get on an airplane. But it's normal for us to be like, we're all thinking that way. If it. And the reason was because our brains are back, our old perspectives are looking at the new world and going like, this isn't making sense. I should be here. We should have this. Life should be like this. And this will not end until you say, I'm waiting for this world to change, or I'm going to start to be proactive and change my mind. And the beginning of your changing your mind, before you get to like what I have to do, before you get to like how do I do it, it begins with I got to get out of the world of lack. And I got to do that through gratitude. Gratitude gives me the world of abundance. Those who are just joining us for the first time last week, if you go on the WhatsApp group or on the YouTube page, whatever, we have all the classes from last week, the morning boost. So last week we really went through a little bit of difference in lack and abundance. But once we get to a place where you slow your day down, you break it up into pieces, and you start to walk through your day slower, identifying things that you're grateful for, taking a second to enjoy those things, thinking about life without those things, what you're doing is you're beginning the process of changing your mind, of shifting your perspective so that it can be upgraded, so that it can deal with the new world. You need a new system. We need a new software system in order to deal with the new world. Many of us are going through that right now in our computers. We're upgrading to like Zoom Pro. We're upgrading to Slack. We're upgrading to new programs that we never had to do before. We're talking to people that are a little older than us and telling them how to use this. They never had to before. It's amazing. My kids are like already like Zoom bombing each other. It's incredible how like my kids 10 days ago didn't even know, or a month ago didn't know Zoom existed, and now they're like changing programs and like breaking into each other's Zooms. I don't know, kids can do this, but they've upgraded their usage, so to speak, of technology from whatever they were doing to something. We have to upgrade our software right now in our minds, and if that software does not include more gratitude, we're not going to thrive now. We're not going to connect to our Creator in the right way. We're going to rely too much on yesterday when yesterday is gone for a while. And it's hard to even hear that. It's just true. Yesterday is gone. Even in the future, it won't be yesterday. Maybe in the distant future, it'll be yesterday. But in the near future, it won't. And it doesn't have to be. Nor should it be. And we're so scared of that because we just don't want to go. We just don't want to change. But we have a real opportunity here. We have an opportunity to change. Wherever there's disruption, there's opportunity. Right? Everyone that's in the world of trading right now, they're going out of their minds because they know that in volatility is where you make your fortunes. Well, it's like that in life. In volatility and disruption, do you create a new world for yourself? And so what we really need to be working on in a real way, we can't just give it lip service, is this idea that whatever I feel during my day, if it's not empowering enough, it's because of me, it's not because of circumstance. Once the responsibility of empowering ourselves shifts from the world around us to our perspective, the game changes for us. If we're waiting for news reports, if we're waiting for governmental programs to change how I feel, then we're living in the world of yesterday. If we start to take responsibility for how I feel, what I have may be subject to the things around me. How I feel, let's take extremes out, because there are people dealing with extremes. And that's the hardest thing to worry about. So just leave that out for now. How I feel is up to my perspective. It's up to me. It's up to my ability to look at the world with a new lens, to go through my day and to capitalize on the slowness that is now in the world, and to use it as a way to see things that I never would have seen before. To look at my spouse, my children, my life, my home, my talents, my deficiencies. To look at my world with a little bit of a slower gaze. And in doing so, start to identify the things that I always missed. This is the game when I was a kid growing up. I don't know if they still have this. I haven't seen this in years. Remember the book Where's Waldo? Remember that book that we used to, maybe 10 years I haven't seen it. Maybe it's in your home. So the best part about Where's Waldo is that, like, you open up the book and you just can't find Waldo. And usually, like, the youngest guy, and then, oh, boom, there he is. And the minute you see him once, every time you open that page, you go right to Waldo. It's the power of how our mind looks for things. It's looking for patterns and can't find it. And then it zeroes in on it. And the next time you go into that circumstance, there it is. We've spoken about this before in the past. You're not sure if you should get a red car. I don't know. Should I? You buy the red car. You come out and all you see are red cars. Should I get a puppy? Should I not get a puppy? Should I get a puppy? Should I not get a puppy? You get the puppy. All you see on the street are whoever has puppies. As soon as your brain can focus on something, it knows how to get back there really quickly. Well, that's how it should work when it comes to gratitude. As soon as your brain focuses on the thing that you have, now every day when you look at that thing, hopefully you'll see the goodness in that thing. And if you do that, if we do that in a real way, we're not patronizing it. We recognize that this is the pathway to an upgraded software system in our brains that we're going to need to thrive in the new world. You need to learn a new language if you come to America. My grandparents knew that. They came in here from Europe. They needed to learn English. They weren't going to thrive. They learned English. We need to learn a new language if we're going to thrive in the new world. And the beginning of that language is gratitude. The language is relationship with the Creator, with God. The language is less of me. The language ultimately is being able to be part of society in the way that is not just a fulfillment of one's ego, but that's a long way from here. But it begins with the language of abundance, which comes from gratitude. I can't look at anything in this world and go, I can guarantee it's going to be here tomorrow. And so whatever I have today is a gift. And that humility that you get from it, that shift of perspective that you get from it, those kids are not just responsibilities, they're gifts. That spouse, that home, that environment, whatever it is that you have in your life. The older people in your life that you're checking in on. The community that you're a part of. The body that you have. And if we go through our days and start this process, even 5, 10, 20 minutes a day, consistently, we're going to be leveraging the slowdown to build a new software system. We're not going to be the same people just waiting for life to go back to normal. Remember, life doesn't go back to normal. It goes forward to greatness. That's how we go through things in life. You don't go through things in life to become the same person. The goal in life isn't to be like who you are by 12 and then just wait for the world to give you new circumstances to have the same mentality as you were in high school. The goal is to go through life and then to emerge from it a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better until ultimately we can't even recognize ourselves. And that's the idea of striving for awesome. Hope to get to spend the time this week together to really go through piece by piece with you. But until then, have an awesome day. Be grateful. Live with abundance. Thank God. Thank God for where we are and for what we have. We should push ourselves past good and great to awesome. Looking forward to speaking to you tomorrow with God's help. Have a great day. Thanks for tuning in.